The Libyan government has warned Uganda over its move to repossess shares that Libya bought in a predominantly Libyan-owned telecommunications company in Uganda, Uganda Telecom Limited, or UTL, it's more commonly known. The Libyan counsel in Uganda made the remark shortly after Ugandan authorities opted to take over the assets and liabilities of the heavily indebted and insolvent, frankly, telecommunications company in which the Libyan government owns 69%. Libya acquired these shares rather controversially in 2010, but following the collapse of the Muammar Gaddafi government in 2011, UTL has been facing a broad range of financial challenges, partly, though, as a result of poor management. Uganda this week announced that it had repossessed the telecommunications company after Libyan shareholders refused to provide for the funding for it. Let's dig deep into this story. Isabel Nakiria joins us now live from the Ugandan capital. Isabel, good to see you. What's the legal justification for the government to acquire 69% of UTL without paying for it?
Well, Rama, it's not very common that the government in Uganda would take over a big company like the Uganda Telecom. To some closely following the company's performance, they saw it as a move that was long overdue. Governments across the world would have related decisions like that, but many end up in court. But one thing for sure is that the government has assured the public that the decision is legally justified, much as the UTL investors might be contesting it.
Indeed. Right. As far back as 2015, though, both the Ugandan government and Libya's LAP Green Fund, which hold 31%, 69% respectively, they were considering selling part of their stakes in UTL in order to bring in a new investor with fresh funds and fresh ideas. Why did that not happen?
Well, it all takes us back to the fundamentals, which in this case could be maybe mismanagement. Already government said the telecommunication company was poorly managed, much as some of the dealings on the corporate circles remain largely confidential. It's also possible that potential investors had an idea of what was happening at the top management of the Uganda Telecom and were really discouraged.
Indeed. One last question for you, Isabel. Uganda, of course, is home to several other successful telecommunications companies. So why not split up the company's remaining assets and sell those off to the rest of the industry as opposed to just taking it over?
Indeed, Uganda has a number of operational telecommunication companies, but interests do differ. The fact that the UTL has a big public stake, that in itself gives it a special consideration. There are some investors who would rush for privately owned companies and would not bother with any investments involving government. But also it's possible that some existing telecoms would have wanted to acquire UTL, but that information might have remained in the boardroom. The Minister of Finance, though, has intimated that the government is looking for other investors elsewhere, though they have remained adamant on who these investors are.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for the update. That's Isabel Nakiria, of course, live from the Ugandan capital of Kampala.